This lesson is designed for EMG806 at Eastern Kentucky University. We will be discussing how to create a lesson plan using the KTIP form. The Kentucky Teacher Internship Program, or KTIP, applies to beginning novice teachers. Because beginning teachers must prepare lesson plans for observations by the 3 members of their committee, Kentucky teacher preparation programs utilize this form in student teaching and coursework. In most situations, this is less confusing for our teacher candidates and graduate students and avoids them having to learn different forms. In this class, you must actually plan and teach a lesson based on strategies and activities recommended in the professional book study book selection. We have modified and annotated the KTIP lesson plan form, also known as Task A of the KTIP templates, to adapt it to our class project. You will find the lesson plan form in our Blackboard site in the Professional Book Study folder. So you will see that I am scrolling down to the link that says Professional Book Study, and that will pop up here, and I'm going to scroll down to this link, which is an assignment link that says Lesson Plan Implementation. Right-click on the attachment to open it in a new window. We have 2 attachments. One is the modified and annotated KTIP Task A2 form, and the other here is a lesson plan example. And then below that, you will see the scoring guide for the lesson plan. So let's take a look at these 2 lesson plan forms together. On the left of the screen, you will see the modified and annotated KTIP form. You may type directly on this form and then follow the directions written in red to help you complete it successfully. Here is an example form. This particular lesson was created for a 2nd grade classroom. But you use the same form regardless of the grade level. And in fact, even if you need to adapt your lesson to work with adults, college students, or even a small informal group of students, it isn't that difficult to do this. The lesson plan form is divided into 4 basic sections. All right, you see that? So the first section is where we have modified this form slightly for you to include a SMART, all in capital letters, a SMART goal for your lesson, or in some cases an entire unit of study. The second area has to do with how your lesson aligns to an instructional unit, how it aligns and connects to standards, and also sets a context for your teaching based on your students' prior knowledge and the specific group of students that you will be teaching. The third section can be divided into as many rows as you need. This is where you will identify each specific learning outcome or objective, or the student learning target. Once you identify the specific learning target or student learning outcome, then you will say how you will assess this. How will you know when students are able to do this or perform this task? How will you know that they know? And only after you determine the outcome, the assessment, should you then say what instructional strategy or activity is appropriate to get them to that assessment and help them be successful on that assessment. You only use 1 learning objective per row. The final section are your actual lesson procedures. These should be very detailed. So let's go back and take a look at what we're asked to do. Remember that for this assignment, you will need to go into the live binder that we have provided for you as a way to explain all of the steps of the professional book study. When you go into LiveBinder and you look on writing the lesson plan, you will see a link to developing SMART goals and a short YouTube video that explains what a SMART goal actually is. This is not new to our class, to EKU, or even Kentucky. So over here, if you look at this particular lesson plan, notice the students has written in their name, which we have shortened to EC, the number of students, the unit title, the date of the instruction, the age, grade level for the lesson. That's really important for us to know this, and the lesson title. A lot of times graduate students forget to put their name on things, and when you're submitting electronically, that can be very, very important for us to remember whose lesson is whose. Their SMART goal for this particular lesson says, by the end of the unit, students will be able to generate questions categorized under a variety of components demonstrated with their questioning tally sheet and using text features to question think sheet with 85% accuracy. The lesson SMART goal, by the end of the lesson, the students will be able to identify which component a question is categorized under with 80% accuracy. So notice that we have a criteria that this particular teacher believes will provide a reliable and valid assessment of their ability to perform the standard. So in the second section where we're looking at lesson alignment, one of the things you want to do is create essential questions or unit objectives addressed in this particular lesson. So a unit might have many essential questions and objectives, so you want to say exactly what is specific to this lesson. Remember that an essential question is really a way of playing standards Jeopardy, if you will. You will take the standard, you will make it specific to the grade level and topic and concept, and flip it around and put it in the form of a question that is generally in the voice of the student. So the student should be able to read that question and think, how do I do that? What does that mean to me? How do I answer this question? And for example, over here in our lesson, this teacher says the essential question for the unit is, what does it mean to ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding? So you can see the inherent metacognitive skills that this teacher is going to require of even. In section B, you are asked to connect the objectives to your curriculum documents. For most of you, this is going to be the Kentucky Program of Studies and Kentucky Core Academic Standards. If you are unsure of what standards you should be using for your particular subject area, please talk to one of the instructors, or you can find this on the Kentucky Department of Education website under Curriculum. Here you see the standards that this particular teacher has applied, and as well the big ideas, the academic expectations, enduring knowledge and understandings, and skills and concepts for this particular grade level. Notice that this is science for second grade. This isn't simply literacy. You will describe the particular student's prior knowledge. If you are working with a teacher as a assistant or guest teacher for the classroom, you'll need to discuss this with the teacher prior to teaching your lesson. Describe the group of students as well and what sort of differentiation you will need for this class. And you will see how EC has described his or her group of students. There's 15 second graders. and describes particular special learning needs for those students. Finally, describe what pre-assessment has been used so that you know what the students know about this particular lesson, what they don't know, any misconceptions they may have. Again, when you come to this third section, you're going to have one row per lesson objective or target. You need to pull these targets from the standards, but in many cases the standards themselves are much too broad to be an individual learning target. The Common Core standards in Kentucky have been deconstructed to very clear learning targets. However, standards in social studies, science, practical living, vocational studies, arts and humanities have not been deconstructed to the student learning target level. So make sure that your lesson objectives are specific and measurable. Again, one objective per row, and then the assessment that will be used to determine what the students know and can do related to that objective, and only then do you bring in the instructional strategies. Now, in addition to explaining the strategies, you also need to list any adaptations for this particular group, and also list media, technology, or resources. Remember to reference your professional book study text here, and if possible even give page numbers of the standards or of the strategies that you're using. You can use as many rows as you need depending on the number of objectives. You can add rows or leave rows blank as needed. So again, you can look at the example lesson provided to see how this particular teacher detailed the particular strategies and provided the media and technology resources. For instance, this teacher is using a book, Thunderstorms, large chart paper, interactive text feature wall, and copies of a questioning tally sheet. I would strongly advise you to number the strategies in your procedures so that it's easy for you to follow when you're actually teaching your lesson if you need to reference back to that sheet. But also it's easier for an observer or reviewer, that would be your instructors, to follow these. Make sure that you break your lesson procedures down into how you will begin the lesson, how you'll introduce the lesson, how you will present the actual strategies, and how you will close or have some sort of exit strategy for your lesson. Again, you will see how the teacher here explains that they will begin the lesson by activating prior knowledge and getting students focused, reading the lesson target to the students. So the teacher is actually going to discuss the learning target. The students know why they're there and what they're supposed to learn and why they should learn that. The teacher asks questions of the students to get them engaged and get them involved in the topic of the lesson. And then begins to explain the procedures and how that will take place. So we have a pre-reading lesson, we have a teacher think aloud, and we have an extension activity at the end of the lesson. The final steps: collect papers and materials. Papers will be assessed for student mastery of the objective, and that will be the assessment that this teacher will use to complete the data analysis for the book study. Again, here are all the resources listed, question strips to go with each of the additional books that the students will be reviewing. So take a little time and go back through these. Don't be intimidated by the KTIP format, and use the guidance we provided to help you complete the lesson. This is about learning. This is about practicing your craft as a teacher. I hope this has been helpful for you.